As the NBA playoffs are down to just 4 teams remaining, the focus has begun to shift to what will go down this offseason, what meteoric moves will take place to reshape the future of the league, and the Sixers are at the forefront of the conversation with the massive cap space and options that they do have, with really just Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey as the building blocks. Well, a new name has entered the conversation for a potential player they may have their eye on, that being Malik Monk. In this video, I'm going to break down why he is worth considering for the Sixers, the angle that they could take, and why that he is available in the first place here. So I'm going to start with this initial report from Evan Sidri here, who writes, Malik Monk could earn up to $25 million annually in free agency. Monk, who is still only 26 years old, is set to be aggressively pursued by teams in need of additional shot creation and playmaking ability. Keep an eye on the Magic, Pistons, Thunder, and Sixers as potential fits. So not like a huge story there, that being much more of a speculatory report, but I do think Monk is a guy that the Sixers should be interested, and frankly, a player that I am a huge fan of individually. That I love what he brings to the table, a guy that has been in the mix. Frankly, I think he should have won Sixth Man of the Year, although Naz Reid was excellent as well. He's really done a nice job of rerouting his career after a bit of a rocky start. This was a guy who was anticipated to be a top NBA pick coming out of Kentucky. Didn't quite live up to the buzz at Kentucky. Ultimately slipped a little bit. De'Aaron Fox was on that team as well. They were teammates at Kentucky, as well as they currently are with the Sacramento Kings. So cool to see how that played out there. That I think it was a bit of a surprise to everyone to see De'Aaron Fox kind of take the lead as the best player on that team. And then moving forward, we saw Malik Monk get off to a rocky start to his NBA career. Failed a drug test, did not find his stride in Charlotte, and has bounced around a little bit. But he really has straightened himself out with the Sacramento Kings, and that is producing on the court. So to dive into his stats, what he brings to the table here, that this year coming off a season in which he averaged a career high 15.4 points per game, also 5.1 assists, 2.9 rebounds, shot 35% from three, which is a little bit below his career average. We have seen him shoot as high as 40.1% from beyond the arc, that being on 5 3-point attempts per game, so some pretty legitimate sample size. Shot 39.1% from three on 5.8 3-point attempts the next season with the Los Angeles Lakers. I will say that Lakers season is really where he turned a corner in his professional career. They're looking back before that, in the 4 seasons that he spent in Charlotte, there were some real concerns that he never did carve out that true niche for himself, that he did not play over 21.3 minutes per game, and even saw those minutes dip slightly in the following season. But the Lakers did take a flyer on him, gave him the opportunity, and he ended up proving himself into one of the more reliable options on their team. Was a huge part of that playoff run in that Lakers year, and really just contributing to that team overall. Now, he is a free agent this year, and this being kind of the first time that he has reached the market as a marquee free agent. Now, this is going to be a player that a lot of teams have their eyes on. And the reason that, he's not dead set on staying with the Sacramento Kings, as that seems to be a place where he's carved out a nice role for himself and has become incredibly important to that team, it does purely come down to the finances. So to dive into that, his current contract that the Kings gave him, a 2-year, $19 million contract 2 seasons ago. As I mentioned, the perception of Malik Monk at this point in time, much different than it was back at this point. But the reason that is notable is due to the NBA rules that you can only offer a player, I believe it's 120% of their current salary as an extension, that there are limitations on what you can break down. And given the specifics of it with the Kings, that it says, as pointed out by the Athletics' Sam Amick and Anthony Slater, the projected max starting salary the Kings can offer Monk is $17.4 million, which would be a 4-year, $77.9 million max long-term deal if extended out with maximum allowable raises. But a team with more salary cap space could offer the 26-year-old a similar length deal in the $100 million range, a payday that would be the biggest of Monk's up-and-down NBA career, and an offer $2,000 to decline. Quote, it's big because I can go somewhere else with a lot of money and be in a worse situation, so you never know, Monk said at his end-of-season exit interview Monday morning. I have a great agent that's going to do his job. I think my job is done. I did what I needed to do this year, and it's going to play out. I think it's going to play out in the right way. That, to me, might as well have said, peace out, Sacramento. I'm bouncing to the next offer. And I know he doesn't quite say that there, that he is saying that he's open to it, but the reality is that you only have so many options to hit the free agent market as a marquee free agent, particularly on a class that overall I think is pretty weak this year. The Malik Monk should absolutely be looking to capitalize on that top dollar, and I fully expect that to be the case. And the reason that I bring this into play with the Sixers is think about what you can get with Malik Monk for $25 million versus what you can get from, say, Paul George for $50 million. For legitimately half the price, I can see a world where you can construct a more complete roster. Like, as much as everyone is dead set on this star hunting technique, and to take a look at kind of some of the other free agents available, why I think this makes more sense, there's just that many stars to hunt. So to look at the list of things, obviously there is the Paul George player option, the LeBron James player option, then it is Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, James Harden, Pascal Siakam, Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, Gary Trent Jr., Markelle Fultz, Jonas Valanciunas, Malik Beasley, Tyus Jones. These are not the names that are the difference makers from a championship for the most part, but the right combination of them could be. So think about if you're saving $25 million by signing Malik Monk and not Paul George. What does that mean? Can you bring a guy like Klay Thompson at a cheaper price? I am very curious what his market value will be. It does strike me as he's going to be another guy seeking to maximize those top dollar earnings. And there's always, when there is kind of this breakup of a super team, as it seems we are dead set on seeing in Golden State. Who knows what happens with that rest of that roster, but I do think Klay will at least test the waters, and I think it's more likely than not that he's not in a Warriors jersey next year. But when we do see these types of things happen, there's a little bit of pride connected to what can I get? What can I be paid elsewhere? Who, values me for my skills in a way that my organization that I did so much for did not. So I could see Klay looking to maximize things. If I had to call the shot right now, I think the Orlando Magic is a place that makes a ton of sense. But if you could get a Klay Thompson on a cheaper deal, somewhere in that same $20 million range, think about what Klay Thompson would look like taking catch and shoot threes off the kick out on doubles from Joel Embiid. That would be pretty dynamic there. That even him not nearly the player he once was, still a really dynamic shooter. That is something that interests me. Another guy that I wanted to bring up from this free agency list, Gary Trent Jr. That is just the near perfect 3-and-D guy, and I've seen some speculation or reports of him and Nick Nurse not fully getting along, so that may be a hurdle there, but that could also be water under the bridge, and money seems to be the best cure for everything. So if these Sixers can come in with the best offer there, that's something that interests me. Jonas Valanciunas, another name that I would like to throw out there. I think that would be the answer to a lot of the backup center opportunities, and for what it's worth, the Sixers did express interest in Jonas Valanciunas at the trade deadline. But this all starts, and the reason that all these names would be possible is if you're going with Malik Monk as kind of a lead guy, that you're not putting all your eggs in the Paul George or LeBron James or Jimmy Butler basket. That by taking this route where you're constructing a more complete roster, I think the Sixers can contend. And I think, if anything, that this season proves that Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, with some top-end role players, can still be a contender. And I get it. They're a first-round exit. They lost to the Knicks in 6 games. This isn't a season that the Sixers should be hanging their hat on. But there's also upgrades that can be made, that you can get guys that are better than the role players that they did have. Not 38-year-old Kyle Lowry being a starting guard in a playoff setting, or being a guy that's playing the amount of minutes that he was forced to on this team, largely because of DeAnthony Melton's injury. While I think this collection of role players was the best fitting around Embiid that we've seen during this era, there's still a little bit of lacking of the top-end talent that this team needs. Now, as far as the pushback, the critiques, the concerns with Malik Monk, at the top of the list is the size, that he's only slightly bigger than Tyrese Maxey, and Maxey honestly has a little bit more muscle to him. That Monk is a little bit more slender. He's much more athletic. The way that he moves is kind of pretty electric, and he is a high flyer. He can dunk, he can shoot it as well, all these things. But defensively, there are concerns with how you match up there with a Maxey and Monk backcourt. And specifically, the model that I want to note here is take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. That we know what they do down low with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. But I think the biggest hurdle that team found is the issues with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland not being quite compatible. That would be the fear here with Malik Monk. But my kind of pushback to that is the Sixers need more guys that can be as dynamic as Malik Monk is, who can take guys off the dribble, who can play make for others, who can create their own shot. That for too many stretches of time this year, it looked like Tyrese Maxey was the only real creator on this team, and that's something that these Sixers need to address. So my full answer on Malik Monk here, it is very price dependent. That I do think $25 million might be a little bit of a lot for a guy whose likely best role in the NBA is as a 6-man. I would be more comfortable with rolling the dice with allowing Malik Monk to continue to keep growing at age 26 if you know that you still have some of these other guys in your back pocket ready to come, the Klay Thompsons of the world, the Gary Trents of the world. These type of players, I would love to see a roster built out with that style of player, with guys that aren't the quote-unquote big star or the big fish to add to this team, this big three that you want to build. Rounded out with complementary role players that make their stars better, that make Joel Embiid better, make Tyrese Maxey better, have complementary skill sets to what they need on the court. I do think Malik Monk check some of those boxes, and at the minimum would provide a ton of relief. So I am curious what your guys' mind is. There's still a lot to unfold in free agency, a lot more coming with Paul George and the Clippers having their staring contest, seeing who ultimately makes it to the market when factoring in some of these player option situations. So a lot still to go down this offseason, but Malik Monk is an interesting name that has entered the conversation. That certainly has got me thinking. So let me know what you guys think of Malik Monk in the comments. Is that a guy that you could see wearing a Sixers uniform next year? Would the Sixers benefit if that is the case? And what would be the price point that you'd be willing to roll the dice and go that far with? So I want to hear from you guys below. Make sure you are dropping a like on the video to let me know you're listening. Subscribing to the channel to keep the Digest family growing. And I'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.